Chapter 5, Section 2, American Core Values, Part 2. Free enterprise. Free enterprise refers to the ability of people and businesses to make money with minimal interference from the government. The strong cultural tradition of free enterprise in the United States is a natural extension of the values of individualism and equal opportunity, as free enterprise empowers individuals and the businesses they create to make the most of their equal opportunity for success. However, American attitudes toward the regulation of capitalism have changed over time. Due largely to the lasting influence of the free market theory posited by 18th century philosopher Adam Smith, until the early 1900s, the federal government took a hands-off approach to managing the economy and regulating business. The period of rapid industrialization that occurred between 1870 and the early 1900s, commonly known as the Gilded Age in American history, created a massive influx of wealth, most of which flowed to industrial magnates like Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller. At the same time, industrialization caused the number of people working in factories to increase, and businesses trying to maximize profits often required factory employees to work long hours in poor or unsafe conditions. In addition, businesses often fail to maintain consistent quality or safety standards for the goods they produced, sometimes causing harm to consumers. For many, the negative consequences of industrialization demonstrated that the free market would not always correct unacceptable conditions or outcomes on its own. As a result, many people came to believe that some government intervention was necessary to guarantee fairness and safety for workers and consumers. This shift in thinking helped to initiate the Progressive Era, the period from 1900 to 1920, during which the federal government passed a series of reforms aimed at improving working conditions for factory employees and regulating the safety of consumer products. Initially, many of these reforms were struck down by the Supreme Court. But by the 1930s, political and judicial attitudes had changed, and laws like the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938, which established a minimum wage and severely restricted child labor, were upheld under Congress's power to regulate interstate commerce. Today, the notion of free enterprise is still evolving. Some Americans would prefer a more laissez-faire approach to government regulation, believing that market pressures will usually prevent businesses from putting their employees or customers at risk. Conversely, others believe that some regulation is necessary in order to prevent businesses from prioritizing profits over other concerns, such as worker safety or the health of the environment. As with other core values, opinions about free enterprise exist on a spectrum. Most people agree that at least some regulation is beneficial, but there is considerable disagreement about where to draw the line. Rule of law. The rule of law is the principle that everyone, including corporations, organizations, and government leaders, should be held accountable to the same legal standards. In other words, no one is above the law. The appreciation of early Americans for this concept in part explains why the United States is a democracy, with leaders who are elected and therefore accountable to the people, rather than a monarchy or some other form of government in which the people in power are granted a special status that places them above the reach of the law. As a result, the concept of the rule of law reinforces the notion of equality. In the United States, the Constitution is the ultimate source of the rule of law, and the system of checks and balances helps to ensure that the rule of law is followed. For many, the most important institutional check is the independent judiciary, since federal judges and many state judges are appointed rather than elected and need not consider popular opinion when striking down laws, unlike Congress, which must consider popular opinion when making laws. Limited government. The political value of limited government is closely related to the notion of the rule of law, as a limited government is one that derives its power from the law itself. Without a law granting it the authority to act, a limited government has no power. The framers of the Constitution created a limited government in part because of their experience living under English rule. Though limited by the Magna Carta, the British monarchy's power was more expansive than what the framers envisioned for the U.S. federal government. The notion of limited government continues to influence American political culture today. For some, limited government is a core political value, and reducing the size of the federal government is an important goal. For others, however, having a limited government is often a lower priority, and the government is often considered an essential part of the solution to social and economic problems.